So I really thought I wasn't going to have to redraw, but I see some things in the drawing that I don't have accurate that I think would make the painting better. And so what I think is I would like this to, this is not bad right here, but now I would like this to come this way more, and then this to be able to be down more. So I would like to emphasize this diagonal line up into the painting more than I have. And I would like this to not be lined up with this, because that is true. And if I hold my charcoal up, I can see that there's quite a difference between the bottom of this and the bottom of this. So I think I might even want to make this a little shorter in here. And then our trouble spot here. All right, I think that's all I'm going to do, except for one thing that we talked about last night, which was the way this whole end is kind of racing to the edge over here. Maybe bring that up more. And maybe another thing I could do, actually, I believe is actually kind of the case. Great. That's why I try never to use a long piece of charcoal, because I will always break it. I want to use it, but then I break it. So let's see if I can make this a little taller right in here. And these up here a little more. And just make sure this really angles into. And I want to be sure that this is in front of the bank. And so I might have to exaggerate that a little bit to make that happen. And this is going to be the edge of the bank going up there. And then we have the reflections starting. Okay, so I'm going to start with the sky. And I want a really nice great blue, and I just constantly feel like I do not have that nice great blue, in spite of spending a lot of money on blue. And that's the thing, you can't make blue, so you have to buy blues. Oh, better use that up before it's gone down here. All right, so there's my blue, and then I've got this, oh yeah, I was going to mention something that someone said last night about how they can't find the colors that they used before. But I don't try to save the colors that I've used before. I'm always hopeful, ever hopeful, that I will find better colors. So even when I hold my colors out, good night, even when I try to keep from throwing my colors back into my box as I'm working, the next time I come back to work on things, I put everything away. None of those colors I used before are out. Okay, so then I think, yeah, I've got the pink, but I think I'm just going to need a little yellow. And so I'm just using all the colors I want to use before I use the lightest colors like white, before I add white into the clouds. And at this stage in my painting, I'm hoping that what I'm doing is a finish, but if it's not, well, then I'll just come back and make it better. But I'm hoping that I'm finishing now. Hoping. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but I always find like it takes me a little while to kind of get back in the groove with stuff. And so I try really hard not to, like a lot of times when I start working on my painting again, I might want to like go work on the really most difficult thing first. No, but it does take me a little time to sort of get back in the swing of it. So I try to work somewhere that, you know, I can't do terrible damage. Honestly, now I'm kind of wishing I had kept my colors out that I had used before, because there's this one purple I feel like it must have gotten put back in the wrong place and I can't find it. All right, well, I'll try this one. So I do feel like in my paintings that a lot of times things sort of get worse before they get better after I come back to them. Like, what was I thinking down here? All these weird strokes and... And so now, like, that's it. I've really worked on this so much that I've lost my surface. So if I wanted to do more down here, I would have to either scrape it off with my paintbrush or spray it again. Okay, so I don't know, I'm gonna work on these guys again. I guess I'm thinking maybe I don't like the idea that these are a whole lot of trees back here. I didn't really love the way they seem to work out in people's paintings so much, and I just see if I try something a little different and maybe just keeping them more of a mass of trees. And I feel like I let the sky just get way away from me again. But I also feel like you might as well know that there's a fair amount of misery, I feel like, with all the time what I'm doing. So, you know, I just always hope I can make it better. That's like my hope. And sometimes it seems like I can't. I meant to mention this also last night. There's a really incredible painter in Montpelier named Catherine Monstream, and I asked her one time, I don't know if she's still doing it, but she used to always have this amazing art show of all her seconds, and then she would donate a large percentage of those to different charities. So she would keep some of it and she would donate a bunch when she had this big show in November. So I thought that was really great, that to be so prolific and also so generous that you would do that. so anyway, I asked her one time because she had so many paintings that she considered seconds. Like what was the percentage of paintings that she considered good? Like, was it 1 out of 5 that she did that she thought was what she should keep or would be like a first? And she told me it was 1 out of 10, and that was a really long time ago. So who knows what it is now? Maybe she's like, has a higher number that she finds good enough to save. So I just the other day was remembering that conversation and thinking about my own work and what I think. And I think maybe like the oils is a little different. The oils, like I had 2 oil paintings that I felt were pretty epic fails this last winter and that I didn't show, but I felt pretty good about the other ones. And part of that just could be that an oil painting, you can just work on it until it gets better, unlike pastels where there's like an end of the rope. But with my pastels, I would say I was lucky if it was 1 in 5, and I've never framed or any of my demonstrations because I can't. It's hard to do as well as I want to do if I'm talking and stuff. So yeah, so I think, but I also think that part of that is that you want to keep pushing things till they break. That you're not just doing what you know over and over again and always being successful. So I think if you don't have some epic fails, it means you're not pushing hard enough. You're not pushing beyond what your capability currently is. So you want to have some paintings that don't work out. Like there's some artists that every painting they ever do works out. Like a friend, Thomas Kincaid, because they're a formula. So in a way, I'm not doing anything different really now than I was at the start of the painting. I'm trying to make each color better, and then what I'm doing, and I'm trying to make my shapes better, and my strokes and the interest better. But I'm not. It's not like I've switched over and now I'm in finish mode. It's more like I'm just. It's just more of the start. So the better you can get at starting your paintings, then definitely the better you can get at finishing your paintings. So what you always want to work toward is being better at starting. I just keep doing this thing where I'm getting sort of my too big of blobs of light colors when I need to keep things a little more on the dark side. If you don't keep your darks going, then your lights won't look strong. So you have to make sure you don't lose your darks. The other thing about pastels I think is so great is just that thing that, I had to move on. I'm like, I can't keep working on that because it's and it's important to like keep moving. So like here, I'm going to just put in a little outline. I'd like that line to be stronger edge. And then I'm going to work down from it and just see if I can make it stronger on that back edge. And I am going to come back and add some more white right up in here, behind here to... Let's see if I can get any more in here. So the question always is, what is it you're trying to, I'm going to phrase it this way, but this doesn't feel that accurate exactly to me. What is the story you're trying to tell with your painting? And, oops, I feel like I guess I hit the camera leg there. So what is the story you're trying to tell? And the story I'm always trying to tell is some sort of story about color nuance and shapes and lights and shadows. And yeah, this is a wild hair color right here, but I was getting irritated because everything I picked up, nothing seemed to have much of an effect. So I'll put that in there and then see if I can come over it. I would also say I would totally recommend the more you can get outside and paint before the weather gets bad, the better. Because this just, if you don't paint outside too, I just don't think your paintings, I know my paintings indoors are just not as good when I'm not getting outside. And so yay, preschool started, but then it's rained both these days that I could have been out painting outside. So yeah. But I feel like my demonstrations will get better as soon as I am painting outside. All right, not loving this. Somebody had, oh, it was Emily. Such a great job on that color. And then one thing that I took a workshop with Wolf Kahn, and he said this thing that was so interesting, that the problem with art teachers is the thing they're good, really good at, like whatever their natural talent would be, if you believe in natural talent, that is very difficult for them to teach. And so I think the only kind of maybe natural ability maybe I had, or at least I don't remember exactly how I learned it, but I think I do a pretty good job keeping all my colors within my painting sort of like together, in the sense that they create a harmony. And so I don't know how to explain how I'm doing that really. And maybe I'm delusional, but it's something that you want. And a lot of people's paintings this last week were just so good, but then there'd just be one whole area that was outside it just didn't seem like it went with the whole color scheme of the rest of the painting. And it's not, even using the words color scheme makes me feel a little awkward, because I don't really mean that exactly, but that in a particular day and a particular lighting effect, there's going to be a continuity because everything is bathed in that same light. And so getting that continuity is really important. Oh yeah, and you might have noticed I'm using the more in focus photograph, although it's not really helping me in a way. I don't feel like I'm getting anything more. The other thing I'm trying to do in all these things, these rounded things like the tree, is I'm trying to get a feeling of light, half light and shadow, so that the tree will look more dimensional. More, modern art, so-called modern art from like now I guess, I don't know, when did the modern movement start? The 50s. It's more about a flatness, that you want this flatness. And but I still kind of interested in dimension. Obviously, I'm trying to create depth. And trying to make, you know, things that are in front look like they're in front. Look at that. Every time I get something that looks pretty good, I decide I should try and make it better, and then I make it worse. There was this friend of my teacher, her name was Priscilla Roberts, and you could probably Google her. Her work is amazing. She has a painting in the Met, at least one. American artist, died in maybe the 1960s or 70s, and she finished literally one thing at a time in her paintings. That she didn't work on the whole thing. She just finished one thing at a time, and it would take her like a year to paint a picture. Literally, and because that's a slow way to work. And she lived with her sister, and they lived a very modest lifestyle. And because she sold her paintings for maybe $25,000, but she only sold one a year because she only painted one a year. But I just remember Dick telling this story about what her sister had said about how she had painted in this one little area. I think it was a little violet nosegay. Her paintings are really weird, surrealism, I guess. And so this little violet nosegay, and she wiped the whole thing out and started over. And her sister was kind of annoyed because there went the income from that whole that month. And so the sister asked her why she did it, and Priscilla Roberts said, well, I thought I could make it better. And her sister said, well, did you? And she said, well, no, but I thought I could. So that's kind of sort of stuck with me. Is like, yeah, I don't always make it better, but I always had hope that I would. And then the question is, what do you mean by better? So I can't answer that either for anyone else, except I don't even know if I can answer it for myself. Oh. And I guess I do feel like maybe this is the center of interest in the painting, is this sort of coming here where everything's sort of pointing into there. Also, maybe I'm having one of those little times where you're getting ready to get like a lot better. Getting ready to make a big jump forward. And so that is definitely how I think it works. And if you haven't been painting much this summer, I think you can expect to feel a little let down, that maybe your work won't be as good as you remembered being able to do it. And although sometimes when people take a break, their work makes a leap forward because things have a chance to like percolate inside. But one thing I've always noticed is it's not sort of a gradual thing. It's like I get better, or I get more adept, or I don't even know what better means, but I get more accomplished, or I get to be able to like do color better or draw better, or But then other things maybe go downhill for a while when I take a step up in some area of my painting. And so I guess what I'm just trying to say is don't expect things to just be a constant, gradual uphill slide of getting better and better and better. And it's more like plateaus, I find. And really right now I'm just talking about trying to make myself feel a little better here because I don't feel that good about what's going on. Yeah, there is just not much sense of the water in here. I'm just lying like a rug, but I kind of thought maybe this would be just tie it together a little bit in the water. All right, so like I was talking about, anyway, so it's not just an uphill climb all the time. Well, it is an uphill climb, but it's not just a straight line gradual ascent of getting better and better and better. It's a lot more like you get better and then you sort of hit a plateau and you think it's all over. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought, this is it, I'll never gonna paint another good painting. But it's happened a lot. But if you can just kind of ride it out, because really what were you going to do with yourself anyway? And if it wasn't hard, why would you do it? But this up here, this yellow, that was really out of context, I think. So I just need to kill that a little bit. Okay, just like that. Spent all that time working on those trees up above, but I didn't work on them down here. A lot of times what really determines that I'm finished with a painting is just that I run out of time. The light changes. I have to go somewhere. I can't stay any longer. So I can't really exactly tell you how I know when I'm finished because I'm not sure I ever do. I might just always be being stopped by circumstances. Here's the thing I used to hear all the time when I was young was that you should never just use a color in one place. And I don't even know. I just kind of like this. I think I see it, but I decided to use it a few other places just to carry it around so it wasn't lonely and only. Oops, no, not you. I think I'm going to make that darker right up in there, just because I think just like to see if I can make this light do something more interesting. Yeah, you know, I'm just not sure why I chose to paint this. And maybe you don't really always have to know why. I just liked it. No, I need something super dark. One thing for sure in my work, I really like value contrast. Like I almost always will go for really strong contrasty situations. Don't really like gray days. And so that also means I'll push my values all the time. Push them apart to make more difference between the light and dark than maybe really is there. Popping out of there. Still looking bad. Drawing is not looking good. I don't know what I can do about it. Got this stupid clip. Another thing my teachers used to say that just would irritate us to pieces was that that they weren't at class on the day their teacher taught them how to finish painting, so they missed the lesson on how to finish, and it just drove us wild. But finishing is just more of the start. It's just deciding what areas maybe you're going to do a little more details on, what areas you're going to make more value contrast. And one thing that's really annoying when you're working kind of toward the end of your painting is that you need to be careful to only change one thing at a time before you look, because each thing you change affects the other things so much. So I just wanted to get this sort of, like I see some things I really like I really like the way this comes in front right there, but the way it comes in front of that, but I'm just not quite. And I guess the thing I'm doing is I'm trying to lead everything to here. from both sides. That must be the game plan. Okay, kind of like that better. And when I, as I look back and scan back and forth, I'm looking for things that jump out at me as not being in the right place, or the not right in terms of like color, value, drawing. Mostly value right now and color. This, I changed that. When I really looked at that, I saw I really had not done anything like what was there. And I don't care exactly if it's exactly like what's there, but if what's there is better, or if I can change it in a way to make it better. Like this was just too much of a ski slope into that, into there. I would like to have a little more feeling of light and dark on these trees in the back here, but these ones right back here. But I also don't want to do too much. I don't want them to pop forward in front of this thing that I created. What the heck? Maybe I'm going to get something even darker for this. There's a big lie right here, just so you know. It's awkward when you start telling lies like this. Also, if you're having trouble with making too much detail, just take your glasses off. It's a great thing to be nearsighted. Okay, I'm going to call it quits on this.